I want to express now that this is just my opinion, and that when you click on this video, you're getting my experience, my opinion, things I've researched. So, the title of the video, why does suffering matter? I believe it's a little bit self-evident to you why your suffering matters, because who else cares more about your suffering than you? When I came across this notion that suffering isn't always bad, working out, suffering, doing schoolwork, doing any type of work, right? You feel good after, but during it, it sucks. It sucks. It really hurts. So I went on this little thought experiment as to why is suffering good? Because we flip it on its head all the time. We want comfort. We want comfort food. We want Netflix. We want to play video games. Things that make us feel good in the moment. Things that are anti-suffering. So when you flip it on its head and you say, you know what? This world we live in is a duality. Without suffering, you can't have bliss. You ever notice that when you work out, it sucks? Or if you've never worked out, if you've ever done like a long run or you've worked for a long time and it just sucks. When does it feel good? After. And in this video, I'm going to explain the frame of reference idea and also why your suffering matters. Here I have some things labeled as either high suffering behaviors or low suffering behaviors. We're going to get to the frame of reference in just a moment. So, most people would agree that these are common things that almost everyone does that can either put you in a state of suffering or a state of distracting yourself from existence almost. So, for example, low, TV, Netflix, YouTube, anything that kind of distracts you or procrastinates from things that you actually have to do or want to do. Video games, same thing. I would say this is a little bit of a different thing because it's not as passive. You're actively engaging in something, which could almost make it worse. It drains you more. And then drug and alcohol overuse. Abusing alcohol and overusing alcohol is subjective to every single individual person. If you can honestly say to yourself that you don't abuse or overuse alcohol or drugs, then you know what? Who is anyone to say anything else? But if you always know the truth inside you, whether you are smoking too much weed, doing other types of drugs, or just drinking too much, you always know that something's off. I know this because I've been in those situations. I've overused drugs and alcohol to get away from my everyday existence. Some high suffering behaviors that I mentioned before include stuff like working out, really challenging yourself and going towards the suffering. Going towards the suffering and saying, you know what, I'm going to suffer, but then for the next 23 hours of the day, I'm going to feel great. Fasting. So if you don't know what fasting is, it's literally just not eating for an extended period of time. A lot of people don't know what fasting is, so I guess it's kind of a hit or miss one. Telling the truth. Just a simple thing is telling the truth to others, telling the truth to yourself. Very hard things to do. Again, no one's perfect. Everyone lies. So this idea of telling the truth to others and telling the truth to yourself, it's uncomfortable because you have to come to terms with the reality of the situation you're in and the reality of the things that you're doing. So, let's say we engage in a low suffering behavior. So that's going to jut us down. TV. So let's say these are little lines. TV. Oh, this will bring us to a -1. It'll distract us for a while, but what happens when we're done TV? Oh, let's play some video games, Play some video games. Okay, that'll bring us down to about a -3. Oh, when we're done video games, let's take a bong toke, Let's smoke some weed. I'm in Canada, so weed is legal. Let's take another bong toke. All right. Oh, let's take another rip and nick. Okay, we're down here. Oh man, I'm feeling great. The problem with this is that this level is unsustainable over time. Because inevitably, this will have to come back to the baseline. This is your baseline of suffering. This is when you're just sitting there, doing nothing in your own head, and you're just thinking about whatever. You're sitting there, you have no stimulation whatsoever. This is where you're at. The discrepancy between these two levels of suffering is quite a lot. And when you go this way, you can perceive it as pain because you're going back to normal. So let me pose a different scenario where you go into the suffering. You go working out, fasting, telling the truth. Say you have a workout, you go up to 1. You're fasting during the day, so you know what? It sucks, but you're going slow up. And then, you know what? You bring up the courage to tell your girlfriend the truth or tell your mother the truth about you, or you look yourself in the mirror and you really take ownership of what you're doing. This will bring you to about this. This change can be perceived as happiness, as a lack of suffering. So when you get back to the baseline, you're like, damn, I've been suffering. I've been to this spot. So my baseline is fine. Then your overall existence and your existence over time as a linear statement is in fact more bearable. But if this becomes your new axis of reference, and every time you start going back to the baseline, it hurts way too much. So you know what? Let's take another bowl. Let's take another toke. And it brings you back down to that baseline. This new frame of reference, which is just a low level of suffering. What ends up happening over a long period of time is those things that lower your suffering and distract you from existence actually become less effective. If you've ever been a stoner, or you've ever played a lot of video games, or you've ever watched a lot of TV, you know that you can't distract yourself from the baseline forever. When we suffer, we ask ourselves, why am I suffering? What is this worth it? Is it worth suffering? And I think with the thing I illustrated before, there's a definite answer as to why going to the suffering, going into the suffering is worth it. And why going away from it is putting it off. Existence is suffering. That's almost comforting to say. And although I say that, and it sounds kind of crazy, if you think about existence as suffering, then anything above that is bonus. Anything that you enjoy is bonus. Suffering is not a bad thing. The majority of the world is in a state of humans is in a state of more suffering than people in North America. Yet, people in North America have the highest depression rate in the world. What is the antidote? When you create your own suffering and you create your own frame of reference and you move that frame, that is when that happiness is so sustainable and so long-term that it is an antidote to that chaos, an antidote to that depression. So, am I a preacher? Am I preaching to you? I don't know. I'm just trying to help anyone who is in the same situation as I was when I'm 22 right now. When I was 18, 19, 20, I wasn't in a good spot. I was playing video games all day. I was smoking weed. I was slacking on my homework, failing out of school. And I knew in my bones that this can't be it. I'm not gonna lie, I had suicidal thoughts, but I knew this couldn't be it. Now, 2 years later, I've kind of come to terms with this existence, and I want to give some tips to anyone out there who's struggling. One thing that you can do every day is do something you don't want to do. Whatever it is, even if it's like getting out of bed. Like if you don't want to get out of bed, just you gotta force yourself to get out of bed, and then you can say, you know what, that's a win. If you don't want to work out, work out. If you don't want to take a cold shower, take a cold shower. If you want to eat all day, If you're a little bit overweight, take a day off. Take a day off of not eating. Just don't eat for half the day. Don't eat for the full day. Don't eat for a few hours. Go towards the suffering, and the suffering turns into meaning. That pain that you once felt turns into something that you can be proud of. And it's hard, but I believe that anyone and everyone can get to a better place in their life and beat who they were yesterday. That's all. Thank you very much. I love you all. I don't love you all to the same degree, but I love you all to a certain degree, and that's important. Okay, bye.